I thought my biggest wedding stress would be choosing between roses or peonies for my bouquet. I had no idea my soon-to-be mother-in-law had other plans. Plans that would turn my dream wedding into a nightmare I never saw coming. Let me start from the beginning of this mess. I had just gotten engaged to the love of my life, Jake. We were both clear about one thing. This was our wedding, and we would make all the decisions together. Sounds reasonable, right? Well, not according to Jake's stepmother, Linda. Now, Linda wasn't even technically Jake's stepmother yet. She was just his father Robert's girlfriend of several years, but she acted like she had every right to be involved in every single one of my wedding decisions. The problems started immediately after we announced our engagement. Linda began demanding that I send her all the wedding details, the venue choices, the dress styles, the menu options, everything. But here's the kicker. She never asked Jake for any of this information. It was only me who was getting these constant demands. And when I tried to share some ideas with Linda, thinking maybe this would help build our relationship, she would immediately shut them down. Oh, you don't want that color. It's too flashy. That venue is overpriced. You're being foolish. Those flowers won't photograph well. Every single choice I made was criticized. Every idea was met with eye rolls and passive-aggressive comments like, well, it's whatever you want, I guess. I quickly realized that Linda didn't want to help plan my wedding. She wanted to control my wedding. And if she couldn't control it, she was going to make sure I knew she disapproved of every decision I made. But it got worse, much worse. Jake and I both agreed that we weren't ready to share all the intimate details of our wedding planning. Yet, we told everyone, including Linda, that we would handle the details closer to the wedding date. I thought that would keep people off our backs. I was wrong. One day, we decided to take Linda out to lunch. I thought maybe if we spent some quality time together, just talking and getting to know each other better, things would improve. And for a moment, I thought it worked. We had a nice conversation about life, about our hopes and dreams. It felt normal. For the first time, Linda seemed to just want to be included, not to control everything. I left that lunch feeling hopeful. Maybe we could actually have a good relationship. Maybe my wedding wouldn't be a battlefield after all. But then, a couple of months later, Linda did something that made my blood run cold. We were all sitting together. Me, Jake, Linda, and Robert. We were just having a casual conversation when Linda suddenly turned to me and asked, "Can I be the one to put your veil on you on your wedding day?" The way she asked it, right there in front of everyone, I felt completely put on the spot. This wasn't a private conversation between two women. This was a public declaration with witnesses designed to make me look bad if I said no. I took a deep breath and tried to handle it diplomatically. "I haven't even thought about something like that yet," I said, "but I would want to check with my mom first to see if that's something that would be important to her." I thought that was reasonable. I mean, my own mother should get first choice when it comes to these intimate moments, right? And honestly, I didn't even know if my mom Carol would care about putting on my veil, but I wanted to give her the opportunity before I started handing out duties to other people. Linda seemed to accept my answer. She nodded and said, "Okay," and I thought that was the end of it. I actually felt pretty good about how I handled the situation. I was diplomatic, I was kind, but I also stood my ground. But I was naive, to think it would end there. A week later, Jake came to me with this weird expression on his face. "Hey," he said, "I need to tell you something. My dad and I were talking, and apparently Linda was really taken aback that you didn't just say yes to the veil thing." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you serious right now?" I asked him. We've both told them multiple times that we haven't gotten into the wedding details yet. We've said we'll handle these things closer to the date. How is this a surprise to anyone? But that conversation made something clear to me. Linda asking about the veil wasn't really about the veil at all. It was about power. It was about her feeling entitled to the same role in my life that my own mother had. And when I didn't immediately give her that power, she took it as a personal rejection. The fact that she couldn't just let it go, that she had to complain about it to Robert, and that Robert then felt the need to tell Jake about it, showed me exactly what kind of family dynamics I was dealing with. But you know what? Life has a funny way of surprising you sometimes. A few months later, Robert decided to surprise Linda with a wedding. It was on the 4th of July, super intimate and beautiful. Just family and a few close friends. And you know what? I was genuinely happy for them. Despite all the drama, I could see how much they loved each other. After the ceremony, Linda handed me her bouquet and said some really kind words about how I was next and how excited she was for our wedding. In that moment, I felt like maybe we had turned a corner. Maybe the lunch conversation had actually worked, and we were going to be okay. Linda was now officially going to be my mother-in-law, not just Robert's girlfriend. I hoped that this new official status would help her feel more secure, and maybe less need to fight for her place in the family. I was so wrong. As our wedding day approached, the tension started building again. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened on the actual day of my wedding. I was in the bridal suite, getting my makeup done. It was supposed to be a peaceful, intimate moment. Just me, my makeup artist, and a few of my closest friends and family members. The people I had specifically invited to be part of this special preparation time. I was sitting in the makeup chair, chatting with my bridesmaids, when suddenly the door opened, and in walked Linda, uninvited, unannounced, just there. I looked directly at her before she could even get halfway across the room. I didn't hesitate. I didn't try to be polite. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "You are not supposed to be in here." The room went silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing. Linda gave me that look. You know the one. That look that says, "I'm about to give you some excuse for why my behavior is actually okay." I could practically hear the words forming in her mouth. I know, but I just thought. But before she could say anything, her own daughter Emma, who was one of my bridesmaids, spoke up. "Mom, you need to leave. Now." I have never been more grateful for anyone in my entire life than I was for Emma in that moment. She didn't hesitate. She didn't try to smooth things over or make excuses for her mother. She just told Linda to leave. And Linda did leave. But the damage was done. My peaceful morning was ruined. The stress I had been trying so hard to avoid was now front and center on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. But if I thought that was the end of Linda's inappropriate behavior on my wedding day, I was very, very wrong. The ceremony itself went beautifully. Despite the morning drama, Jake and I managed to focus on each other and on the commitment we were making. We were officially married, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. But then came the reception. Everything was going well. We had our first dance, The speeches were lovely, and people were having a great time. I was finally starting to relax and actually enjoy my own wedding reception. And then it was time for Jake to dance with Linda, the traditional mother-son dance. Now, I know this dance is supposed to be a sweet moment between a mother and son, a chance for them to share a special moment and for everyone to watch and smile at their bond. But what I witnessed was not that at all. Linda was hanging on Jake like she was the one who had just married him. She was pressed against him, clinging to him, looking into his eyes in a way that made everyone at our wedding uncomfortable. It was like she was trying to pretend that she was the bride, not me. I watched from the sidelines, feeling more and more horrified by the second. This wasn't a sweet mother-son moment. This was something else entirely, something that felt wrong and inappropriate and just plain creepy. I tried to catch the band's attention, to cut the song short, but they didn't see me, so I had to stand there and watch this bizarre display for the entire length of the song, while our wedding guests shifted uncomfortably and exchanged glances. When the dance finally ended, I pushed the whole thing out of my mind as best I could. It was my wedding day, and I wasn't going to let Linda's weirdness ruin it completely. Jake and I danced. We celebrated with our friends and family, and we had a wonderful time despite everything. But Linda wasn't done yet. After that dance, she basically avoided me for the rest of the reception. She didn't talk to me during the family pictures. She barely acknowledged me at all. It was like she was sulking because I had dared to set a boundary earlier that day. The morning after the wedding, our families came over to our hotel suite to say goodbye before everyone headed home. And that's when Linda decided to address the elephant in the room.
She walked up to me and said, "I want to apologize for coming into the getting ready room yesterday." I thought about just accepting her apology and moving on, but something inside me knew that if I didn't address this properly now, it was going to keep happening. So I said, "Thank you for apologizing. Just so you know, you weren't asked to come in there because I was really stressed and I didn't need more people in the room."
She nodded and said she understood. And I thought, okay, maybe we can move forward from this. Maybe she's learned something about boundaries. But life had other plans for us. A few weeks after the wedding, Jake and I moved into our new house together. Both sets of parents offered to help us with the move, which we appreciated. But what should have been a helpful, bonding experience turned into another nightmare with Linda and Robert. From the moment they arrived, Linda and Robert had opinions about everything. Where our furniture should go, what we should keep, what we should get rid of. They were treating our move-in day like it was their house, not ours. I would carry a box out to the donation pile, and Linda would literally bring it back into the house. "Are you sure you want to get rid of this?" she would ask. "This could be useful. You should keep this." Over and over again, I would take things to the donation pile, and she would bring them back. It was like she couldn't respect any decision we made about our own belongings in our own home. By the end of the day, Jake and I were both on edge. We felt like we couldn't make a single decision about our own house without getting pushback from Linda and Robert. And then, as they were leaving, Robert turned to us and said, "You know, you both were really disrespectful today." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We were disrespectful? We were the ones trying to organize our own home while they second-guessed every decision we made. Jake and I looked at each other, and we both knew we couldn't let this slide. We had to address this pattern of behavior before it got any worse. So we invited Linda and Robert over for dinner a few days later. We thought we could have a calm, adult conversation about boundaries and expectations. I should have known better. We sat down at our dining room table, and Jake and I explained how uncomfortable we had been with them, not respecting our boundaries and decisions. We tried to be diplomatic about it, but we were also clear about what we needed to change. Robert immediately became defensive. "That's just the way I am," he said. "I can't help it." But eventually, after some back and forth, he seemed to come around to understanding what we were trying to say. Linda, however, was a different story. She brought up the wedding day incident. "I still don't understand why you were so mean to me about the getting ready room," she said. "I felt so wronged by the way you spoke to me." I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. "Linda," I said, "it wasn't the right time for socializing. I was stressed, and I needed that space to be calm and peaceful." Then I said something that I thought was perfectly reasonable, but apparently pushed Linda over the edge. "I also don't understand why you wanted to be in there so badly. It's not like we have a super close relationship." Linda's eyes filled with tears. She started crying, and I honestly didn't understand why. I tried to be compassionate. "Linda," I said gently, "why does hearing me say that I'm not your daughter make you so upset?" And that's when she and Robert revealed something that absolutely floored me. "We thought you didn't have a good relationship with your mother," Linda said through her tears. "I was trying to fill that hole in your heart." I sat there, stunned. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "I have a great relationship with my mom. Where did you get the idea that I didn't?" "It's not what you said," Robert chimed in. "It's how you said it. Over the years, you've made comments that made us think you didn't have a close relationship with Carol." I was getting frustrated now. "What comments? What did I say that gave you that impression?" They couldn't give me a single specific example. It was all vague references to my tone of voice or the way I talked about my mom. The truth is, my relationship with my mother is healthy and normal. I don't call her every single day. I don't see her every weekend. I don't go to her for every little decision I make. I don't need her opinion on everything I do. But apparently, to Linda and Robert, this meant I had a bad relationship with my mom. They couldn't understand that it's possible to love your mother deeply while also being an independent adult. It's not your place to decide that. For me, I told them, you don't get to assume things about my relationship with my mother and then try to insert yourself into that role without my permission. The conversation was spiraling out of control. Robert was getting more and more agitated, and Linda was crying harder. Then Robert dropped a bombshell that I will never forget. Your bridesmaids agreed that you were nasty to Linda in the getting ready room, he said. My mouth dropped open. Which bridesmaids? I asked. Who did you talk to? We can't remember, Robert said quickly. Can you believe that? They were using a classic manipulation tactic, bringing up unnamed people who supposedly agreed with them, people who weren't there to defend themselves or confirm the story. That's convenient, I said. You can't remember who supposedly said this? Robert started raising his voice at me then, actually yelling, telling me that I had said things over the years that made them think I didn't have a good relationship with my mom. What things? I demanded. Give me one specific example. It wasn't what you said, it was how you said it, he kept repeating. They were twisting everything to fit their narrative, and when I pushed for specifics, they had nothing. I was getting yelled at by a grown man who wasn't my father in my own home over assumptions they had made about my life that weren't even true. And you know what? I don't tolerate disrespect from anyone. I don't care who they are. If my own father was yelling at me like that, I would yell back if it was warranted. No man gets to raise his voice at me and think I'm just going to sit there and take it. So I raised my voice right back. The whole evening exploded from there. Robert said things to me that night that I will never forget. Cruel, hurtful things that had nothing to do with wedding planning or boundaries, and everything to do with trying to tear me down as a person. Eventually, they left our house. The next day, we got an email from Robert. It was filled with more cruel words and accusations. And just like that, Jake's entire family cut us off. We didn't speak for almost a year. During that time, Jake and I started trying to get pregnant. And as we talked about our future family, we both agreed that despite everything that had happened, we wanted his parents to be part of our children's lives. We decided to reach out. We invited Linda and Robert to dinner, and we had a long, emotional conversation. I apologized for yelling that night. They apologized for overstepping boundaries and for making assumptions about my relationship with my mother. Robert apologized for the cruel things he had said in his email. We all cried, we all hugged, and when we left that restaurant, it felt like we had a chance to start over. A few weeks later, when we saw them again, Jake and I shared our exciting news. I was pregnant. Looking back on everything that happened, I learned so much about boundaries, about family dynamics, and about standing up for myself even when it's uncomfortable. I learned that sometimes people will try to create a role for themselves in your life that you never asked them to fill. And when you don't accept that role, they'll act like you're the one being unreasonable. I learned that setting boundaries isn't mean or selfish. It's necessary, and the people who truly love you will respect those boundaries, even if it takes them some time to understand them. I also learned that family relationships are complicated. People make mistakes. They let their insecurities and fears drive their behavior. But if everyone is willing to do the work, to have honest conversations, and make real changes, it's possible to heal and move forward. My relationship with Linda isn't perfect. I don't think it ever will be, but it's better now. We've learned to respect each other's boundaries. We've learned to communicate more directly instead of letting assumptions and misunderstandings fester. And most importantly, I learned to trust my instincts. When something feels wrong, when someone crosses a line, it's okay to speak up. It's okay to say, you are not supposed to be in here, even if it makes people uncomfortable, even if it causes drama. Your wedding day is about you and your partner. Your home is your sanctuary. Your family relationships are yours to define. Don't let anyone else write the story of your life for you. If this story resonated with you, if you've dealt with boundary issues in your own family, or if you just want to hear more real stories like this one, please subscribe to this channel. Your support means everything to me, and it helps me continue sharing these important stories. Thanks for watching.